As interest rates continue to go up in Canada, it makes it that much harder to get a mortgage. This rising barrier is making it that much harder to qualify for that mortgage. However, this isn't stopping some real estate agents from selling mortgages. In fact, this has become a major booming business, selling what's known all over the internet and in some circles as the Brampton Loan. Recently, the CBC Marketplace did an undercover investigation and exposed some networks of real estate agents, mortgage brokers, banking employees, all involved in this Brampton Loan. You might be wondering, why are they risking their careers or reputation for making these fraudulent loans happen? Well, like most other levels of fraud, there is major money to be made for facilitating these loans. Essentially making sure that those who wouldn't qualify for a traditional mortgage, simply because their financials just don't support a hefty mortgage, are still able to qualify, get that loan, and make that home purchase. And the real estate agents, mortgage brokers, bank employees, they all make a ton of cash in fees for facilitating this level of fraud. The CBC recorded on-hand camera those offering to connect buyers with fabricated documents, showing fake employment, fake salaries, fake tax filings, you name it. A couple of years ago, a mortgage broker asked me to meet up for coffee because he needed help with his clients. Now, this was back before I was making online content on YouTube and had just started up my money coaching services with a mission to help the average person tackle and understand financial literacy. So I figured this mortgage broker knew a few people that could, potentially benefit from my services and make sure they get their financials on track. When we walked in, we exchanged some quick intros and he went right to the chase. Hey, I need help with my clients who are having a hard time getting a mortgage to buy their first home. And I'm like, oh yeah, for sure, I can help. I can review their cash flows, review their financial plans, look at their budget, their incomes, their outflows. Maybe their investment portfolio isn't optimized for their short-term goals, for their long-term goals, so I can help review all that. And he's like, that's not it. What I need help with the documentation side of things. At this point, I started to feel a little bit lost, exactly not, being sure of what he meant. So I said, okay, what kind of documentation? His response, well, I need a CPA who can help me adjust T4s, notice of assessments from the CRA, tax filings, to make sure that my clients are showing a healthy set of financials so they can get a mortgage and buy their home. At this point, my mind is thinking, I don't think he means adjusting as in the traditional accounting sense of adjusting entries. I think he's starting to talk about fraud. And then he goes on to tell me that the bank employees he has on his roster are just simply overwhelmed with the amount of business he's bringing in, so he needs more help to facilitate these documents and help his clients secure mortgages. And then he goes on to tell me exactly how much he's paying his roster. It was something like, I'll give you $50 for every T4 you adjust. I'll give you $100 for every tax filing. And for anything with CRA correspondence or communication, that's $200. At this point, I'm just honestly taken back, and I'm like, this guy who seems like any other mortgage broker is talking to me openly in broad daylight in the middle of a coffee shop about committing fraud. And I'm just thinking how crazy the situation is. So then he goes on to scribble his number on a little napkin that was around, and he said, if you're interested, call me on that number. He gets up, walks away. And I'm just sitting there taken back at what just happened in the last 5 minutes. I'm thinking that I can't be the only one he's approaching. He likely is going around and contacting others, maybe other CPAs, maybe other banking professionals, or whoever they may be. And he's really just trying to get in and expand his roster of fraud. Because apparently there is that much demand that he needs to just go out, talk to people in coffee shops and saying, hey, help me commit fraud. After this conversation, little did I know how prevalent and open this type of fraud is. Almost as if it's operating as a full-on business just skating by. Take a second, hit that like, subscribe, and thanks button on the bottom of this video. No matter where the housing market goes, you want to be the first one to be in the know, and I will continue to provide these housing market updates, so all the proceeds that I generate from this channel are reinvested right back here. Mortgage fraud in Canada, this has become a very lucrative business. In some cases, real estate agents and their teams are charging 1% of the mortgage amount to get that mortgage application finalized. And this is on top of all the other commissions and all the other fees the real estate agents, mortgage brokers, and bank employees that they all charge. I'm very glad that the CBC went out to uncover all these details. This has been going on for far too long, and it's become deeply embedded in our real estate. I mean, just think about it. For every $1 million in this Brampton mortgage or Brampton loan, that means $10,000 is being generated For these fraud rings, that's a decent chunk of change. And I'm pretty sure those that are making money off on these fraud loans, they're also not reporting this type of income on their taxes. Now, I'm not here to call it that every single real estate agent is embedded in fraud or their teams are embedded in fraud. What's really interesting is that according to the CBC, 6 out of 10 real estate agents that were found through this investigation would be willing to participate in this fraud. 6 out of 10. That's 60% of real estate agents that would be willing to commit fraud to make massive amounts of dollars on these mortgages. And it's honestly very unfortunate because for the average person, we're the ones that have to pay a price on all this fraud. Because what's happening is that this is sort of creating an arbitrary demand for very short inventory. You might be out there competing on a bidding war with someone who's just going to get their numbers changed as soon as that bidding war goes up. So how do you compete against someone who can just fabricate any number that they want just to secure the deal? While some consumers may actively go out and participate in this level of fraud, CBC Marketplace has learned that some real estate agents are also taking advantage of unwitting buyers. Not to mention, newcomers are particularly at risk because they may not fully understand and appreciate the home buying process in Canada. They don't know what's right or what's wrong, so it's easy for them to fall into this trap. And the fact is that new Canadians are also less likely to immediately qualify for a loan or mortgage at one of Canada's big banks because their employment history, their credit score is likely to be more limited based on the current status. In a lot of South Asian countries, one of the biggest things that people do when they immigrate here is go out and just buy a home as soon as possible because you are not going to be recognized in your family circle until you own a property. There's a lot of society pressure. There's just a lot of peer pressure. So it's no wonder why that when people get an offer, hey, we'll make the numbers up for you just so you can get a home, people will fall into that. And just so it isn't or wasn't immediately clear that these fraudulent loans, no matter what you call them or how you phrase them, they are illegal. They are illegal under the Ontario Real Estate and Business Brokers Act. And it's also illegal in the Mortgage Brokers, Lenders, and Administrators Act. Not to mention that submitting a fraudulent mortgage application is also a violation of Canada's criminal code. This crime has an impact on everyone and repercussions on Canadians as a whole. As interest rates rise and house prices drop, just like we're seeing in the marketplace, these buyers who are participating in these fraud loans, they're the ones that are more likely to suffer. They're likely to default on their payments, and that will put even more downward pressure on housing prices and lead to panic sales. The CBC has reported on multiple fraudulent application submissions with counterfeit taxes, counterfeit employment history, with fake T4s and fake letters of employment. Essentially, these letters would fake a company name, fake a company address, fake a company person, essentially fake everything. But at the end of the line, there would be a real person who would pick up the call in case somebody needed a reference check. As we're seeing the home prices come down, and as I mentioned in my last video, home prices have been falling for the last 6 months in a row. The buyers who were the greatest at risk that likely fell into these traps, either actively looking or unwillingly, that got out and got these Brampton mortgages or Brampton loans or fraudulent loans, they're at great risk because their financials were never there to support a traditional mortgage in the first place. Now, as interest rates rise, mortgage payments become even more out of hand. They're going to panic, and this is going to lead to panic sales. If people obtained fraudulent mortgages and they thought their backup plan was to sell their house if things go south, well, that backup plan is quickly disappearing. Not to mention, it also keeps honest people out of the market as they compete for various homes. Anybody remember those bidding wars? And any bets on how many of those bidding wars were actually fueled by fraud loans? According to the CBC, for real estate agents, falsifying mortgage information or even assisting in the falsification of information can lead to fines up to $50,000 or even a jail term for up to 2 years, not to mention a suspension or revocation of the agent's license. There is a lot at stake here for mortgage brokers, for real estate agents, for bank employees, for anyone who is participating in this level of fraud. But the real crazy part is, based on the CBC coverage, guess how many people were actually caught and charged under the various acts that I mentioned in the video? 7. They mentioned 7 real estate agents or brokers, not even like 7 agents or 7 brokers, but we don't even know. It's 7 agents or brokers that were charged. So you're telling me in the last 5 years, 7 people were caught. That's crazy. There are like 80,000 real estate agents in just Ontario alone, and we managed to catch 7 of them. And we don't even know if it was 7 real estate agents. It could be a mix of brokers. I'm pretty sure this is a much larger operation with way more people involved. Maybe even that guy that I met in the coffee shop a couple of years ago, he probably had more than 7 people just on his fraud roster. Equifax Canada flags anywhere between 15,000 to 24,000 suspicious mortgage applications in a month. Think about that for a second. 15 to 24,000 applications are flagged. And in the last 5 years, we managed to charge 7 people. It's no wonder why I can go into a coffee shop and someone approach me and saying, hey, you want to join my fraud ring and help me commit fraud? Here's, I'll give you $50. The enforcement just isn't there. That's the sad part. There's no deterrent to committing fraud. And let's take a look at exactly what the CBC found under this hidden camera investigation. Let's take a quick look.
So here's the mic.
Marketplace sent this undercover team to investigate mortgage fraud. What they found was real estate agents illegally offering fake documents to help buyers fraudulently qualify for a mortgage.
Income is not issue because income he can make.
They will make T4. They will make like he's on the payroll.
They're pitching fake jobs and fake salaries, charging buyers thousands of dollars. If these deals go through, the agents would make big commissions. The buyers could be in jeopardy.
If you are making $0, even if you are a housewife, we can make the income.
That's what they charge 1% of the mortgage.
So they charge 1%
of the mortgage.
There's nothing gray area about it. It is absolutely fraud.
Isn't that crazy? How open and rampant this fraud is. You can just walk up to like a real estate agent saying, hey, help me commit fraud. I don't have income. Make me $100,000 on my T4. It's crazy. This is really, I'm really glad the CBC did this. It's an eye-opener for those who are not aware of this. It's an eye-opener for those who are not aware how rampant and open this is. 60% of real estate agents are willing to commit this type of fraud. We need the regulatory bodies to monitor, to start doing practice inspections, to start doing all of that and more. Not to mention, we need all levels of government to step up and take decisive action to deter this open type of fraud. As you can see from this video, from CBC's coverage, there is a major lack of enforcement that's allowing this type of fraud to be open, to flourish, and it's become such a booming business that's not being enforced. We need to get better together at being more specific on how to deter this type of fraud. We need to shut it down. And one thing you can do right now is share so that people who are not aware, they can see what is happening in the marketplace and how to spot this early on, especially newcomers to Canada who may not know what the buying process is. If there's one thing you can do as a takeaway after watching this video, share this video. Let people know how open this type of fraud is. Share the CBC coverage. What I'll do is I'll link the CBC investigation in the description of this video so it's easy for you to share. Share it. Do your part. Share it all over your social network. Let people know how open this fraud is and how it's destroying our housing market, causing these sky-high prices that we saw. It's caused the bidding wars we saw. It's why people have $1 million mortgages that they're worried about being able to afford. It's all connected. Thank you so much for watching. Hopefully you had some meaningful takeaways from this video, and make sure you hit that like, subscribe, and thanks button. And make sure you check out all the links in the description below for some amazing discounts and sign-up bonuses on products and services that I use on a daily basis. And I really want you to at least check them out. You might make a little bit of money on some sign-up bonuses, or at least get some cost savings. That's it for now. I'll talk to you in the comments section.